The At Your End Step podcast is brought to you by ComicTown. Check them out at www.comictown.net and search for ComicTown Gaming Center on Facebook. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Dave and Mike.
Woo!
I wasn't expecting that at all. Well, we have clearly another fun-filled episode for you guys today. We just had the Pro Tour, so we're going to talk a whole bunch about that, but there were some community subjects we're going to touch on first, and then we'll talk about SCG States that obviously happened.
Which may be why Dave's making...
Yeah, that was in reference to my States finish.
Fair enough.
Mine was also in reference to my States finish. Highest of highs, lowest of lows.
And then we're going to move into Pro Tour discussion. Then we have a question of the week, and then we wrap it up with what's happening this weekend. So let's go ahead and get started with the community topics. So first and foremost, at the Pro Tour, they announced some organized play changes. They typically do this they usually have some sort of announcement for every Pro Tour that they do. Obviously, they have most eyes on the game. Why not make a big announcement of some persuasion? So they announced a whole slew of stuff. So they announced the regional Pro Tour qualifiers for the second Pro Tour of 2016. So these are going to be held in February. And Columbus gets one, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, kudos to Ryan and ComicTown. Really holding stellar events and trying to get themselves squared up for one of these, and they did it. So I personally appreciate it probably the most because I'm already queued for it, and I know I don't have to leave town. So this works out pretty well.
Yeah,
plus
pretty
I
sweet.
get something pretty sweet for playing in it.
That's true. So they are changing the actual promo you get for attending the regional. For the longest time, it has been Liliana. But she will be cycling out, and instead, we will get Snapcaster Mage as our regional promo. So still a very highly desired, sought-after card. It does have new art, which has been causing some, obvious ripples in the community. Mainly, people making arguments that the art necessarily isn't up to what they would prefer it to be. Also, it is an invitational card that does have new art on it, and Tiago Chan doesn't look like the art that is depicted on it anymore, which is to some people unfortunate. I like the art personally, and who really cares? In all honesty, the card still works the same.
I think we're actually very Goldilocks in this cast because Morgan really likes it, Dave does not like it at all, and I'm like, this board is fine.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. It's interesting to see the range of cards that they can print because normally with GP promos it's pretty much locked into mythic rares, which you see. But for this, it seems to have a little bit more fluidity to it, which is good.
So they definitely said so. They've made the regionals obviously a free tournament for those who are qualified, and you can see how they've tried to set it up. So your GP promos are somewhat pricey cards. I mean, the Griselbrand's now been printed so much that you can go get a GP Griselbrand for $15-$20, right? However, the RPTQ ones, numbers-wise, aren't printed nearly as much as GP ones, and they've already shown that they're going to try and make it a higher band, right? So that you can turn around, and if you are paying for your travel to get to this RPTQ and paying for your hotel, well, ostensibly this card pays for it. So it's nice to sort of see them keep that dichotomy of RPTQ a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Do you think part of it is also is that obviously like you said there's less out there for the RPTQ promos, but do you think it's cards that they're less likely to actually reprint?
Maybe I don't disagree with that. I don't know if you noticed, but the last four major promos like this, 5 if we include Geist, including Worlds qualifier ones. You have Geist of St. Traft, you had Thalia, you had Liliana, you had Griselbrand for GP, and you had Snapcaster. This is them saying Modern Masters 3 isn't coming for another 2 years, and we're not reprinting anything from Innistrad right now. So here you go.
Right.
That's what this has really felt like. Oh, and Avacyn, I guess, in from the Vault Angels. So
that's true as well.
Yeah, they've really tried to let you know that this Innistrad stuff's not coming back for a little while. So here's ways to do it.
So after that, there were also some Pro Tour Players Club adjustments for the point threshold for the levels. Gold and silver are actually going down. So silver goes down to 18 pro points needed to be a part of it, and then gold goes down to 33 pro points needed to be a part of it. And then platinum is going up to 50 pro points. And from what the reactions I've seen from it seem to be fairly positive. And Wizard has positioned it that they want people to have an easier chance of getting into the pro players club, but they don't want platinum to be something that everyone just gets. And they tried to adjust it by taking it down a few notches previously, and they realized that maybe they're when there's more players hitting platinum than they are hitting gold, then maybe they have a bit of an issue. So they adjusted it from here going forward. So I think that's fine. And then I don't think anyone has really come out being upset about this. As far as I know, have you guys seen any sort of vitriol from the
The
community?
only people I've seen upset about this are people who, on the way that they changed how many points you get for based on your record in GPs and
Yes.
the Pro Tours from last season, who are like, oh, I really wish I had those points. That's pretty much all I've seen.
Yeah. So they are also changing the amount points you get for our certain records in GPs and Pro Tours as well, and they're increasing those. So, which is cool to see. I don't know if I'll ever see a pro point come to me in my lifetime, but there's hope.
Maybe
There's
you
still
could just
hope.
touch Dave.
Yeah, I could. He doesn't like it though.
I can't win anything anymore, so you don't want you don't want what I have.
It's so
I
sad.
don't want what I have. Wow.
I don't.
No, I think philosophically this is a better change. Again, you have it hey, here, the train is a little more attainable. You can try and get on. You're not when I say the train, you're not getting huge benefits, but you get to stay on the Pro Tour, which is itself its own benefit. But then if you're really stellar, then you're back in that platinum level. So it makes that something harder to attain, but also the system as a whole cycles a little bit better. I like it a lot.
Cool. So next up, there were some changes to the 2016 World Championship slots that we wanted to talk about here a little bit. So basically, they're introducing, or I guess not introducing, they're introducing new slots replacing old slots. So they're sort of removing the barges, at large. I can't talk today,
Wow.
apparently. At large barges, yes. At large bids, thank you. And yeah, that's really bad. Sorry, guys. And replacing them with these new masters slots, basically. So we have Draft Master, which is the 2015-2016 Draft Master title, and the World Championship slot goes to the player with the most match points in booster draft matches at all Pro Tours in the season. So that's pretty cool. And the same holds true for the constructed master. And then there's also going to be a mid-season master and a outstanding Hall of Famer.
Yeah, so the mid-season master would be basically the mid-year player of the year, going off of pro points that way. Yeah, I like this a lot. The way that it was before was kind of like the at-large bids were just kind of like, oh, let's see how many extra American players we can get into the World Championship. So, I like that this gives players from other parts of the world that may not have as many slots to get into Worlds a chance. I guess an alternate path to get there. It's kind of awkward with the Draft Master and Constructed Master that it takes from all the Pro Tours. So if you're somebody that maybe didn't play in the first Pro Tour, or maybe weren't qualified for the first one, but then you were able to qualify for the remaining ones, you're just automatically at a disadvantage for that. But it's not perfect, but I like it more than the way that they had it before.
Right. So when we break it down, we have the four winners of the Pro Tour each season. The 2015 World Champion, four Pro Point leaders from North America, 3 Pro Point leaders from Europe, 3 from Asia Pacific, 2 from Latin America. The 2015-16 Player of the Year, the Grand Prix Pro Point leader, the Magic Online champion, and then the 4 new ones that they're introducing, and that's how it rounds out our World Championship.
Right. No, they are still going to have potential at-large bids for so if somebody is qualified in 2 different ways, I guess. So a lot of times you'll see a Pro Tour champion, say like a Pro Tour champion, from America, may also be near the top of the standings for like pro point leader for North America. So that slot would pass down to an at-large bid. So they're still going to have at-large bids, but they're not just going to have ones that are automatically built in.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty nifty change. It'll be awesome to have that title, I'm sure. Like, I'm the draft master for 2015-16.
Yeah, PV's got a leg up on that. I think he went 6-0.
Oh, there you go.
Tour and draft.
Keep it up, Mr. PV. So next up, something happening in what?
Keep it up, Mr. PV.
What? It's encouraging
Mr.
words.
Paulo.
It doesn't even matter like how common the name is. At this point, Morgan's just so afraid of saying names.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, Mr. P.
A full disclosure, we had some ice cream before the cast, and it's tripped me up. All that milk's making me hard to talk, apparently.
Making me hard to talk.
See?
Yeah.
Ding.
Exactly. Anyway, moving on. So, in less, organized play news, Cedric Phillips has taken on the role of media manager at Star City Games, and this was Evan Irwin's previous role. So basically, we're not quite sure what this means necessarily, other than that Cedric will likely not be doing as much coverage as he's used to doing. So that's unfortunate. He's a very good commentator, but I'm excited to see what he brings to that role, and uses it to diversify the company. He's already done a great job at Star City, doing what he does as editor. So I'm sure that he can handle this newfangled thing pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, good for him. It seems like he's moving up in the company, and I know he's currently living out in the Seattle area, and he's going to be moving down to Roanoke.
Wow.
I believe at the beginning of 2016. So, probably won't be as much travel, or he won't have to travel as far, I guess, from where he is now.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that'll be a relief.
That, or I'll have some buddies to go with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder. I wonder who they're going to replace him with. Like, are they just going to keep the team of Sullivan and
Matthias
Hunt, just those two, or are they going to bring in someone else again? Like, it's sort of interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it'd be I'd like to see where they go with that. I mean, I could see him definitely going back to because they definitely had Patrick Chapin was on there, not as frequently before, but he was somebody that they had on before, and who I wouldn't say he was the most polished commentator, but he definitely had a lot of interesting insights and stuff that is kind of unique to him. Or if we're going to see somebody completely new, so I mean, I'm interested to see where that goes.
Yeah, I imagine that there are probably a lot of people that wouldn't mind doing that job, and it definitely takes certainly a personality type and a certain voice to be a good commentator for anything, let alone Magic. So. Hopefully that person's out there, and maybe we just see more Matthias Hunt. But I would think that him and Patrick Sullivan still have really good chemistry, and Matthias is definitely one of the stronger commentators that they've had ever take the seat, as it were.
Yeah, I mean this all is yet to be seen how much it's going to drop off for Cedric as well. I personally think that Cedric and Patrick Sullivan are just the best, hands down, not close. As far as doing commentary, I think their chemistry together is just so good. So, we'll see where it goes, though.
Yeah, it's always easy to do your job with a friend.
Right.
It makes it real easy to do, and that's why we continue to do this again.
I was going to go a different way, but I'll let you have the nice one.
Oh, okay. That's why we continue to do this.
That's why it makes this job so difficult, just showing up every week.
And lastly, we have some awesome Magic Online news. If you're a fan of Innistrad drafts, we're having some flashback drafts from October 28th through November 4th. They'll be back, and I think if you 3-0 your draft pod, you get a foil full art Sign in Blood as well.
Yeah, cool.
Which is pretty nifty. I don't care. I mean, it's Innistrad draft, man. People will.
Oh no, yeah.
You could have been like, actually, we take a card away from your collection after you win.
Yeah, that's fine.
And people would still do it 100%.
Yeah, that's why I put it on here. I was saying cool the Sign in Blood. That's kind of like, okay, sure,
yeah, whatever.
But Innistrad draft, that's why I put it on here, because Innistrad draft is so sweet. It's like one of the best limited formats of all time. So if you Never got a chance to play that format when it was out. Definitely go ahead and check that out if you like to play on Magic Online. Yeah, I think like if you ask anybody that's drafted that or talked to any pros, it's probably in their top 3 limited formats of all time. And it's triple Innistrad too, by the way.
Yeah, no Dark Ascension.
Yeah, no Dark Ascension. Get that out of here. Which interestingly enough, the triple Innistrad is the only one that I actually played. I didn't play with Dark Ascension.
Nice.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
so that'll be fun.
I
They
think so.
they marketed it as like spooky,
Yeah,
eerie
that's your-
Innistrad draft because it's during Halloween.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's
That's
a
your-
ghost
that's
of
your-
Saint Draft.
That's your spoopy draft, if you will.
No.
Well, people say that on the internet.
Do they?
Spoopy? Yes, they do.
I don't
Fact.
like people.
Well, the hip young kids will get me when I say it. They'll be like, "Yeah, Morgan understands the youth."
Morgan understands the young people.
Oh man, that's good. That's good stuff, guys. All right. Anyway, well, that's everything for the community subjects. Let's go ahead and move into Star City Games states. So we all attended states in various capacities. Some more important than others. I went there Sunday to draft, and I did 2 drafts, and I lost in the second round of both of them, unfortunately. But I had a lot of fun because this format is really fun to draft. And that is my state's story.
I lost to Morgan in draft.
Yeah,
on
I
Sunday.
beat Mike. I'm better at Magic than Mike, guys.
No.
Oh, I wanted to say it once.
We definitely cut each other really hard in the same
Yeah,
archetype.
we have the same tendencies in draft. It sometimes happens, and we both drafted Blue Red Eldrazi. Which is fine. It's Blue Red Devoid. It's a really good archetype, and it was. If one of us hadn't been drafting, that color combination, one of us would have had a really good deck.
Like you said, you had all the removal spells, and I
Yeah.
had all of the like nettle drones and like the skyscrapers and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
the sky spawners. So
Skyscrapers.
yes, you cut all the skyscrapers. I don't know what that means. So again, I only drafted on Sunday because I was pretty much busy for most of the weekend. But who wants to go next?
I guess we'll go in order of days. How does that sound?
Okay,
Sure,
All right.
the
Is that
first
okay?
day.
sure.
All right. So I played on Saturday. I played Standard, which is weird. Like I wasn't really sure what I was doing with Standard. I honestly didn't fully decide if I was going until like late Friday while we were at a wedding. And I say we because Morgan and I and our significant others. So, but I had a list. I had a read on a list from Rob. Sorry, Rob. I'm going to try and say your last name. I'm going to pull on Morgan here though. Quacatano. Okay, who's a grinder in the Midwest here. You would recognize him if you knew. But he won a PPTQ with an interesting Grixis Dragons deck, and I looked at that deck and I said, okay, I like what we're doing here, but I think we could just play Crackling Doom. So I did, and played with the mana base a little bit. Ended up playing 4. So they called it 4-color dragons. Honestly, it was red black dragons. It had 5 blue cards, 5 white cards, and those 5 blue cards were 4 Jaces and Silumgar. And there was a Dragon Lord Silumgar in the main, and the white cards were 4 Crackling Dooms and a Valorous Stance. A couple board cards. I had a Silumgar the Drifting Death, and some counter magic, and a Silumgar's Command in the board, and a Treasure Cruise. I don't think any white cards in the board specifically, so unless you count Radiant Flames. But it was a really interesting deck. I also was trying out Pia and Kieran Nalaar, and that card was really, really good. And I actually saw at least one Pro Tour list that had 3 Pia and Kieran
Yeah.
Nalaars in it, so I was pretty happy to see that.
Now, when I was at States on Sunday, I had someone asking me if you were going to talk extensively about this list and some of the choices that you kind of came to with it. Like the one of Valorous Stance or things like that. Now, were you planning on writing about this list at all?
I was considering it. If I get some time this week, I was
Okay.
considering it. I can talk about some of the. So the quick rundown of the list. It was 4 Hangerback Walker, 4 Jace, 4 Thunderbreak Regent, 2 PA and Kieran Nalaar, 2 Culligan the Storm Fury. I have it in my head. I appreciate it though.
Oh.
1 Dragon Lord Silumgar, and then Spell Suite was 3 Fire Impulse, 4 Draconic Roar, 4 Crackling Doom, 2 Culligan's Command, 1 Valorous Stance, 1 Murderous Cut, and then the mana base. As far as individual, so the original list it was based off of, he had a lot of, because he wasn't playing white, so he had a lot of roasts and Ruinous Paths. Like it was just a huge removal suite, just like this deck. but I kind of felt like a lot of the sorcery removal was just not where I wanted to be. Like, I don't want to do that on my turn. Now, obviously, it interacts really well with Jace, so I get that. But it wasn't like something I was excited about, and obviously, Crackling Doom I felt like solved a lot of those problems, so I worked the mana base a little bit, which it felt really good. I really sat down and was like trying to do the math on it for a while, and I kept coming back to like needing one more red and one more white source. I'm like, I don't know what it could possibly be, and it was just like what other land is there? Because I already had 2 Battlefield Forges in the deck, so it was like I couldn't think of this land, and I was like, oh wait, it's just another Battlefield Forge. Okay, we did it. So
What adds both of these mana? No.
I do only get to play 1 Haven in the deck because of the adding of white, and he got to play 2 Havens. So obviously the Dragon plan is a little. But the idea behind the deck was that Culligan is obviously very good right now. Culligan's even better with Hangerback Walker, and he was talking about how like he was consistently like murderous cutting his own Hangerback Walker at the end of turn, like to get like 3 or 4 guys so you could dash Culligan. And I'm like, well, why would we waste a card then? Why don't we play Pia and Kieran Nalaar, which gums up the works against Atarka Red and other like ground decks, even against like multiple times playing against Jeskai in this tournament. Like it was also just like a way to just like block a Mantis Rider for multiple turns while you were able to set up, and then your removal suite was just better than theirs, so they can then use up bottle this time. But multiple times in the tournament, you got to play Pia and Kieran Nalaar, then untap, then tick up your Hangerback Walker already in play, and then at the end of turn, kill one of their guys by throwing it at them with Pia, and untapping and dashing Culligan. There's a lot of Thopters in play, and Culligan does a lot of work that way. So.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Oh, I missed 2 guards, didn't I? I missed the 2 Planeswalkers. There's a Sarkhan, the Dragon Speaker, and a Obnixilis Reignited in the list.
Big Daddy Obe.
Man, that guy was great multiple times. The Planeswalkers feel great. I honestly, Sarkhan is just such a special place in my heart. So, and there was the joke all day was that even if I'm not playing Chandra, I apparently have to play her parents. So, but as far as individual choices, like the Valorous stance was just like he had a lot of spell diversity in his deck, and I didn't want to like hurt that, and definitely like Thunderbreak Regent is the kind of card that you can like really like put people in a hard spots with. And if you have Valorous stance, like if they finally pull the trigger and say, all right, I have to kill this dragon now, I'm going to take this damage, but I can recover, and you can blow them out with the Valorous stance, you can just win the game. Plus, it just kills a lot of things. So, really, the mana base, if you look at it, like, it felt great. Never really had any issues. Like, it was definitely, out of the 2 mana bases I've played so far, this was the least stressful one. I can't imagine why playing only 4 colors is less stressful than 5, but
that's weird.
Your mana also isn't as terribly constrained in the early turns like it is in Abzan. You're not trying to play like Anafenza on turn 3. You're not trying to play Mantis Rider on turn 3. You're just trying to make sure you have 2 red sources to play your 4-drops. So really the deck played out really well. I played Atarka Red twice, the same player, which was Neil Crabtree, who I beat in the finals but lost to in the Swiss. So he had a great run, but I was able to get it in the end. Beat Jeskai a number of times. Honestly, played most of the major decks in the format. I guess the only deck I really missed out on playing against on Saturday was some true Esper control lists. I didn't really play against any Esper control lists. But, man, the deck felt great. I definitely had to play against Dan Musser again, which Dave and I both have stories about this. I was able to convincingly beat a 4 Mantis Rider draw. So, if you're wondering how it plays against Jeskai, it does pretty well. It does pretty well for itself. So... if I get a chance to write about it, I will. But spoiler alert: I won states. There's a really, really fun picture of me floating around on the internet because the medallion is so gaudy that you just had to wear sunglasses and go full 70s with it. So it's hanging out up there. So it ended up being like I went from a day where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do. I haven't really played this deck much, but like Theorycraft, it feels great, and just like playing the deck and like the more I played the deck, like the more I like really enjoyed it. And I went from like not knowing what I'm doing in Indy in 2 weeks at the GP to having a definitive plan. So it was a good Saturday.
That sounds like a good Saturday. Dave, you're up.
I didn't play on Saturday. I basically had to choose between which tournament I was going to play in, the Standard or Modern. And since I haven't played Standard yet since rotation and really don't know what to play, I decided to play Modern.
Well, it's a good thing you did. It would have been egg on your face because Mike won.
Yeah.
You would have been standing in the way of destiny. And...
yeah, apparently. But I enjoy Modern a lot. I mean, we talk about it on here a lot. I played the blue-red deck that I've been working on, the kind of blue-red humans / prowess deck with Monastery Swift Spears and abbots. Changed it a little bit from the last time I played it. Basically cut down on the number of young pyromancers and played delvers instead. So it's basically just blue-red delver now. But I like to call it humans because, I don't know, it makes it sound like it's different.
They definitely called it Delver in the list.
Yeah,
So I'll let you know.
no,
that, so.
it's totally blue-red delver. But you might ask why not Grixis Delver, because that's kind of the more common version that you've seen basically since Kolaghan's Command and like the delve creatures like Tasigur were printed. And the reason is by playing 2 colors, your mana base is better. Not like mana in Modern is like super hard, but you definitely take less damage off of your lands by only playing the 2 colors, which is important against like Burn and Affinity and decks like that. But you also have a much more proactive game plan. Like, yes, you can go like turn 2 Tasigur with Grixis Delver, but I feel like early on or early after Tasigur was printed, or before, when the deck started seeing a lot of play, like people weren't really prepared for that. It's like, oh, my lightning bolt doesn't kill that. But now I feel like people have adopted a lot more terminates and things like that. And Path kind of wasn't seeing that much play in it, but it's seeing a lot more play now. But in any case, turn 2 Tasigur is not really a guaranteed win or anything like that. But the straight blue-red list plays a lot more proactive game plan. With Swift Spears and Delvers give you really good turn 1 plays that can deal a lot of damage. And it's just, plays a lot more of the tempo game. It can't go long as well as Grixis. Like, you don't have cards like Kolaghan's Command, which can kind of grind out games. But I like the proactive nature of the deck, and you can kind of catch people off guard. And in all honesty, it's somewhat rogue because people don't really know exactly what you're playing. Like, I had like 4 Vapor Snags in my list, which a lot of decks don't play now, and I feel like Vapor Snag is really good. So, in any case, so I played that, and in all honesty, going into the tournament, I didn't really know how good it was. It's kind of like, this was kind of like a test run for GP Pittsburgh, which is happening next month, near the end of November. But I was able to go 6-0. It was 8 rounds. I think it was 136 people. For Modern.
106 for Standard, 136 for Modern.
Right. So it was 8 rounds of Swiss. I was able to go 6-0 and then double draw into the top 8. Along the way, I played a variety of decks. I played Infect, Tron, Abzan Company, which the Abzan Company match was insane. Ended up going to turns. We went into game 3 with like a little over 3 minutes left. And we went into turns, and my opponent was at 8. I had 2 Swift Spears and an unflipped Delver in play. And I had Serum Visions the previous turn, so I knew that the top of my deck was Serum Visions and Gut Shot underneath. So I was able to... So I drew drew for turn, drew Serum Visions, played Serum Visions to draw the Gut Shot off the top. The Scry was irrelevant. Then I was able to attack with my 2 Swift Spears and my now 3/2 Flying Delver. Play Gut Shot, remand my own Gut Shot, play Gut Shot for triple prowess on my guys, and I was able to get through a blocker to deal 9 damage when he was at 8 on the last turn. So yeah, it was pretty insane.
And Dave, and I've seen you make plays like that like a ton of times, and it's so like it feels weird to see that when it happens, but. Again, like, people were telling me, oh, did you see the play that Dave had when he remanded his own spell? I've seen that before. He does that all the time.
He does cool things a lot.
I get it. I understand. Remand's a nifty spell. It does things.
If I'd rather just win through regular plays, but sometimes you got to get fancy. Right?
Yeah, whatever, man.
That was probably the coolest thing that I was able to do all day. But yeah, I was able to take that down, and I really didn't want to be in the draw bracket, so I was really happy I was able to eke that one out. Next round, I played against Merfolk, which, kind of spoiler alert, it's the person I played against in the finals, but I was able to beat that. So, what else did I play against? Team Geist deck, which I thought would actually be a bad matchup, but it was not really that close. In any case, was able to draw to the top 8, beat Burn in the quarterfinals, which isn't a good matchup for me. So I was a little surprised I was able to take that one down. I had beat Bern in the Swiss as well, so I was 2-0 against Bern on the day, which I'll take that any day. Played against Dan Musser in the semifinals. He was playing a kind of weird Abzan Splash Blue list for Jace, which was kind of strange. It was a really good match. I was able to win that one on the strength of being on the play for Game 3 and just having a really good tempo draw. And then in the finals, played against the Merfolk player again, and I want to get his name out here. Zane Bruni, I believe his name. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but really good kid, really good player, cool guy. We kind of had friendly banter throughout the the whole finals, and we even talked like in between rounds throughout the tournament. But he was able to take it down in Game 3 when he played a turn 2 Chalice of the Void, which my deck has 31 1-drops in it. So
it sounds
literally more than half my deck.
Yeah, that
was
card
shut off.
might be good against you.
Yeah, it was pretty good against me.
Sadness, despair, anguish.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? You still did a pretty good job.
Yeah, so I finished second, which is not as cool as winning.
Nope.
But,
Nope, sure isn't.
Yeah, like Mike and I were making jokes all day about how like we're going to get, potentially. So if you don't know, like Star City had 2 different playmats like that they had made for the tournament. So it was like 2 brothers or something like that. You could put the playmats together. It's like, oh man, we could play 2-headed giant and like put the playmats out there. But
Yeah, it was a real dream. I wanted to live it.
yeah, sorry, I'll let you down, Mike. It was so close.
I believe.
It was kind of funny. Like on my way to work this morning, this is gonna be kind of a tangent. Sorry, but it's kind of relevant.
We don't have anything else to talk about. Don't worry.
Yeah, nothing else happened this weekend.
Not at all.
No, but I've recently started a new job and I have a little bit more of a commute to work now. So I have about a 45-minute drive. So I like to listen to sports radio in the morning. And this morning it was kind of funny. They were talking about, and for anybody who's a college football fan, if you saw the end of that Michigan State game, it was one of the craziest plays, like one of the most heartbreaking losses if you're a Michigan fan. Just one of the wackiest plays of all time. And they were kind of talking about like how like as an athlete, you always remember those heartbreaking losses. Like it's like you never like you never forget. And like I feel like at this point, like I've had my fair share of victories and wins, but like I've had a lot of like even recently here I've had a lot of like heartbreaking like top 8 losses and things like that. And they had like an interesting quote that they brought up from Pat Riley. It said, in sports there's winning and there's agony. Like that's pretty much like how it is. It's like if you go to a Magic tournament, there's only one person that's walking out of there, the winner, and everybody else is going to feel disappointment in some capacity. Now I'm probably a little bit more competitive than a lot of people, I would say. So like I would say a lot of people probably like finishing second would be like a really great accomplishment. Like, but for me, it was just like I really wanted it. Like I really like we split the money and everything. So it was just for the title and just for the medal and everything. But it's like I really wanted that title. But that's fine. You just gotta not be sad about it and try to channel that into a learning experience. So,
That's a good way to look at it.
yeah. That's probably the most healthy way to look at it.
Yeah.
Though I've still been agonizing. I looked at a sideboard. He had 1 chalice.
Oh, stop it!
Come
you
on,
just
man.
you just
Come on,
destroyed
man.
yourself.
Yeah, don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
Man.
And again, I would just like to reiterate: I did 2 drafts and lost them.
Yeah, like I don't want to sound like it was like a complete crush, but yeah, it was definitely a little disappointing. But
Fair enough.
Anyway, just to wrap it up, I was really happy with my deck, even though I lost the finals, and I'm definitely going to be running it at the GP. So
He's trying to get me on it.
yeah, yeah. I did.
We might be playing it right now.
Yeah, I did put the list out there. So for anybody who doesn't follow us on Twitter,
Yeah, both Mike's list and your list are up on our Twitter,
Yes.
and that's just at your end step. So at symbol your end step, and you can look at both pictures of them. Also, the lists are on Star City too. So if you want a text version of the list, you can look at it there.
Yep, and I said the only change that I would make would be to add the fourth abbot and cut one of the young pyromancers. But other than that, that was great.
Yeah, and if you are listening and you have any questions about it, please tweet at us. We all have access to our Twitter account, so I won't answer those questions for you. You don't want that, but I will definitely pass the questions along to Dave and Mike if they don't see them. So let's move on. Let's go ahead and actually dig into the Pro Tour here.
There was a Pro Tour?
There was a Pro Tour. It turns out. It was for Battle for Zendikar, and this is the nice one. We had the Hall of Fame induction, so we got to see Willie Idol, Shota Yasoka, and Eric Froelich get inducted, which is pretty awesome. Both Idol and Yasoka had pretty emotional speeches, so if you haven't seen it, they were playing it throughout the downtime during the Pro Tour, and I'm pretty sure they have it broken out at this point in time, so you can go watch the induction. And Eric Froelich actually proposed to his girlfriend on stage, so it was a very sort of emotional experience, which I imagine a lot of these most certainly are.
Yeah, I really like seeing that side of it, because I think I don't know. Magic players tend to be very, I don't know how to put this. I guess analytical, I want to say. I don't know how to put that. But I like seeing I guess the more human side of it, or the more you hear Willie Idol's story about how he didn't have a job and he had to kind of weigh do I want to even keep trying to play Magic competitively, or am I going to have to get a big boy job and kind of quit? And the fact that his family was behind him and let him soldier on, and then eventually get back onto the Pro Tour train and keep going, which was pretty cool. Even Yasuoka, it was very surprising. I'm pretty sure every other Japanese player that's been inducted either had a kind of a prepared statement that they had read, or they would give their speech in Japanese through a translator or something like that. But he got up there and he spoke English, and you could tell he probably hasn't spoken a lot of English before, but kudos to him for doing that. You could tell it was something that he definitely wanted to do for himself, and that was pretty cool. And I really enjoyed seeing him do that. And then Ifro as well, being up there and just talking about how kind of his ups and downs over the years with Magic and everything. So, and then him culminating and proposing to his girlfriend was pretty cool to see. So,
I mean, that's a pretty good proposal. I would have to say that I proposed to my girlfriend the best. So, if you want to hear that story, you'll have to come and ask me about it personally. But it was pretty good. It was pretty good, guys. I don't want to get into a competition with Ifro, but it was.
Yours was better.
It was better. It was better. It was just better. It's fine though.
Was yours televised though?
His technically wasn't televised. It was televised on the internet, and there's a lot of things that get televised.
He could be
on the internet.
"Oh, hey, go watch this link right here."
Yeah, he can relive it over and over again.
Yeah.
That's correct. Sure. Was that really better though? I don't think so.
Yeah.
This is a needless debate that I started for no reason. So let's move on. We do have a winner. Someone actually won this Pro Tour.
What?
As opposed to all the other ones that also had winners. It was won by Kazuyuki Takamura. And he defeated his a countryman in the finals, actually. So it's pretty awesome. And there was actually plenty of well-known players here in the top 8 as well. So we have PV. Palavito Damarosa playing. We had Owen Turtwald show up. John Finkel. He's relatively well known within the Magic community.
Is he good at Magic?
I've heard his nickname actually has Magic in it, so I would imagine he would have to be fairly competent at the game. We have Martin Mueller showing up. The 18-year-old Wunderkind Magic player. He's not German. I don't know. I don't want to make that inference, but. Definitely, someone that has sort of kind of not come out of nowhere, but has been, kind of slowly building up steam behind his name at such a young age, even. And then those were all the really well-known players. The other Japanese player that I mentioned earlier was Ryuichi Tamada, excuse me. And we also have Paul Dean from Canada, I believe. And Then we have Ricky Chin. Fun fact: Ricky Chin's first Pro Tour.
And currently undefeated in Swiss matches.
That is pretty good. It's pretty good. I would like to have a first Pro Tour where that happens to me. And then I believe that is everyone that we have named. Yes. So that was our Pro Tour. The decks that we see here in the top 8 are, Jeskai, so Dark Jeskai. We also have Abzan showing up, which is actually what won the Pro Tour itself. We have we had a copy of Green White Megamorph. So that's what Ricky Chin was playing. And then we have Jeskai tokens actually showing up in the top 8. And I believe that's all the lists that are represented. Almost forgot one huge one. Excuse me. Atarka Red was also there. PV was playing it, surprisingly enough.
Who?
You know that a red deck is good, and when a PV's like, I think I'll play that.
Yeah, I just assumed when I saw that he had started off so hot in the Pro Tour, he was I want to say 6-0 or 7-0 before he took his first loss.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, they must have found like the Esper brew, because he's been known to play, Esper. He played a lot of Esper Dragons, in the previous standard format.
Right.
And there were a fair amount of people playing Esper variants at this Pro Tour as well. But yeah, I was actually definitely surprised to see him playing Atarka Red. But Paul's played some Zoo decks, in his life, so it's not like
Unheard of.
completely shocked that he would play that. But I just figured that he would be playing Esper.
And it's also, speaking of PV, it's also important to point out this is his 10th Pro Tour top 8, which is intense.
Yeah,
and it's John Finkel's 15th.
yeah,
That's insane.
That's a crazy number.
Yeah, so PV is now tied for second. He's tied with Kai Bude for second most Pro Tour top 8s of all time. And he was definitely matched up against Finkel in the quarterfinals. So they just, oh cool, just 24 or 25 casual Pro Tour top 8s between them.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Kai better, he better do something or he's going to get dethroned.
They were making up like Kai Buddha better do something.
No.
Kai Buddha does something.
I'm not going to make a tongue twister. That wasn't the intent. So we can start taking a look at some of these lists, and we'll probably talk about them, maybe at least the big ones in sort of their entirety, their actual demographic, because MTG Goldfish actually gave us a nice breakdown to kind of take a look at here, where they talk about the top lists that were kind of showing up at the Pro Tour. So what we see in their breakdown is that something like Atarka Red actually had a pretty decent conversion rate at 66.03%, which is a fairly good turnover rate from day 1 to day 2, and that it was a very much so highly played deck in the actual format, with 53 players playing it day 1 and then 35 returning for day 2. So. Again, this is sort of one of those decks that I don't see really going anywhere. Now, there is an interesting thing that we can also take a look at with the red-green landfall deck. Now, this deck is actually a little bit more interesting. This particular deck only had 14 players in day 1, but had 11 coming back for day 2, making it a conversion rate of 78.57%, which is pretty good. Now, we see this red-green landfall list wasn't necessarily very well telecasted. We didn't see it very much on camera, actually. Most of the focus was shifted to Atarka Red. But this list, when you look at it, it is more of what we saw week 1, but going heavy on the, Become Immense, Temur Battle Rage combo, playing things like Snapping Gnarlid and even Scythe Leopard. So, this is a fairly interesting list. It's something that we have maybe heard murmurs of, but not really seen it to its full potential. And this Pro Tour list I'm looking at right now looks pretty darn good. And Saffron Olive is I believe who composed this. Saffron Olive definitely points out that this list has access to Den Protectors, which is a really powerful card to have access to, in all honesty. So.
How often Den Protector flips up and gets a fetch land?
probably fairly often, in all honesty, with this particular list. I would say that if you want something that's not, a Tarka Red to play, but you want to be aggressive, certainly take a look at this.
I mean, it's still a Tarka Red.
It is, but I mean, like, you don't have this list has a combo potential that is a little bit different.
No, it definitely plays a little bit differently, but like, this is just like going a little bit bigger.
Sure.
That's really what it is. So,
but it's still something that's different enough to warrant another look.
I do think it's interesting they're not playing the Slide Keeper or Slide Runner, I should say.
The McKinney Slide Runner.
Yeah.
Maybe this. This is just one list. We would have to probably.
There's only one team on that list.
Okay, so they all ostensibly probably played the same, 75. I mean, that could be interesting. I don't know. Maybe an extra toughness in the butt is more important, or maybe that's just not the. I mean, there's only 3 of the Gnarlid. You would be making the argument maybe swapping in the Gnarlid for the Slide Runner.
You think it's possible they wanted to be able to attack through a Mantis Rider?
Yeah.
I mean, Gnarlid with a fetch lane does that. That's for sure.
So that is certainly consideration, but I think it's interesting because it just had such a high conversion rate. In another deck that we saw Reed Duke play that had a super relevant conversion rate is Esper Control, and there were 15 players playing this.
Not Esper Dragons. That deck did terrible.
Correct. Esper Control. And had 11 people coming back, so a 73.33% conversion rate. And the list we have up here is Reed Dukes, and we see that he's playing main deck Aerishan Cleric, as well as Forge Ashes as his creature suite. And then everything else is a spell of some persuasion. So Clash of Wills, Anticipate, Ultimate Prices, Scatter the Winds, Utter End, Murder's Cut. We do see Planar Outburst actually showing up in his list, which I'm sure he takes good use out of with his Scatter to the Winds and stuff like that, as well as the card itself, Treasure Cruise and Ugin, the Spirit Dragon. So this is a control list. Now, he did almost make top 8. A lot of people thought that he was going to do it with his particular list. So I think that since he didn't, that this goes under a lot of people's radars. For sure.
Yeah, Reed had a camera match in the last round. He had it was a potential win and in. I don't think it was a guaranteed win and in for him, but he ended up losing to our eventual winner, Kazuyuki Takamura.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was a good run for Reed. It would have made the top 8 even more, I guess,
star-studded.
pro heavy. Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you are a control player and may have lost your faith in Esper Dragons, that this might be an avenue you turn to. And I don't think that this list looks particularly bad, but I don't necessarily call myself very good at evaluating blue cards.
No, this deck looks good. I mean, you said you talking about faith. It's not faith. You gotta have you gotta have faith. You gotta have Jace.
You gotta have Jace.
Jace.
Something else I want to point out: Bring to Light. Don't be doing that no more. Not necessarily good strategy. We have 10 people showing up for it day 1 and only 4 of them returning for day 2. So this
they failed to bring the light.
Yeah, they failed to bring something. Probably a good standard deck.
Yeah.
But this is not something that I would suggest doing forward in standard until someone maybe breaks it with the correct amount of balance of tools and to pull out from, but it just doesn't seem to be where it needs to be for it to be functional.
Yeah, I don't think it's that surprising that it didn't do well. The deck just seems clunky, like kind of slow in some ways, and a lot of the decks that we've seen do well. Some of the Atarka Red decks and the Jeskai lists were kind of can punish that style of deck.
For sure.
I feel like so.
Now, another list that we have on this MTG Goldfish page is Bant Tokens. And this is a Sam Black creation, and a lot of people from, who are testing with Sam Black played this particular list. And this list had a 24 to 8 constructed combined match win percentage, match wins, I should say, which is a total of 68.57 match win percentage, which is fairly high. Now, none of the people who played this list top aided, which could be another reason why it's kind of flying under the radar. But this is definitely a list that had a lot of wins attached to it, and something to take note of, being potential contender in the future. And I would say definitely look to see maybe this list in the GP this weekend to see if people catch on that it was had a pretty good win percentage and choose to play it.
Yeah, Sam Black actually did a deck tech for this, so if you're looking for kind of the specifics and some of the reasoning of his card choices, it's definitely interesting to watch because Sam Black is one of those deck builders that he's definitely. He doesn't always go deep, but sometimes he's willing to go deep. We'll just say that. Like, no card is off limits for Sam Black. For example, it's listed as Bant tokens, but the only blue card in the main deck is 2 main deck dispels.
Oh.
And he's also splashing green for 4 Nissas.
Well then.
And, 4 Nissas and 3 Elvish Visionaries. That's the splash.
I mean,
So
you gotta draw cards somehow.
Yeah. But he definitely recognized that, yeah, these look really weird on paper, but he had very good reasons for them. So
if you want to find out more about the list, definitely look at the deck tech. But just be aware, like, this might be a pretty good deck going forward. And then we also have another list that people were getting really excited about just for the sheer fact that it was a blue deck that didn't play Jace. So we have the Blue-Black Aristocrats list, and this was piloted by Christian Calcano. And while it does not play 4 Jaces, it does play 4 of another flip Planeswalker in Liliana, Heretical Healer. So you trade one for the other, and now the other one might get expensive. I don't know. Let's call the whole thing off. Anyway. But this has obviously a strong sacrifice energy.
You have to be stopped today. I want you to know. You have to be stopped.
I'm a monster. Anyway, so we see things like Bloodsoaked Champion and Hangerback Walker show up, along with, I think he has the Sultai Emissary in there to some amount, as well as some reasons to be sacrificed to some creatures for value.
Yeah, definitely playing the constructed powerhouses, Sultai Emissary and Sidisi's Faithful.
Oh, yeah.
But really, I think the card that really makes this deck work, because most of the cards in this deck were actually legal prior to, but the one new card that really puts it over the top is Zulaport Cutthroat, which is the new Blood Artist type card, which can really do some disgusting things in this deck. But, then kind of the other combo you can play that again we've had in standard for a little while is the Nantuko Husk and Whirler Rogue, which is kind of cool. So you can play a Whirler Rogue, make your Husk blockable, and then sack everything.
Sack.
So another kind of interesting thing you could do, which actually happened on camera, is so if you have a Liliana that is flipped to the Planeswalker side, you can return your Hangarback Walker for 0. So you 0 Liliana, return it, and then you get Zulaport Cutthroat triggers.
So the coolest thing I got to see him do is he did this on camera. He had sacked a Sultai Emissary and manifested a Hangarback Walker, so you could flip it up for 0 and it just dies. So he got to flip
Liliana.
Yeah, so you got to trigger Blood Artist, but the Zulaport a couple times and flip Liliana. Oh my god, it was so sick. I was like,
that's adorable. That's adorable. That's great. It's good things. Good things happening.
Yeah. So
at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I think this deck wins for the coolest deck at the tournament. Unfortunately for Mr. Calcano, he kind of fell off at the end of day 2 there. He was X-1 going into day 2, and then started strong as well. I think he went 2-1 in the draft, and then he must have just
9-3 was the last time he was on camera.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I really wanted to see him in top 8.
It's interesting that to wonder how that deck played once people knew about it, because it was specifically kept fairly people were asking about it, hey, we're hearing about this deck, can you put him up there? And they didn't show his deck tech or anything until Saturday. So I do wonder how that changed it. It was pointed out though that it's pretty funny that Whirler Rogue was like the talk of 2 tournaments. Like,
Yeah, nobody expected that card to be constructed playable.
I mean, Cube All-Star. Cube All-Star.
yes.
well, I mean, yeah, it's also one invitational cube. So
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. So,
Just
man.
racking up the accomplishments.
Well, Whirlorg is pretty, it's pretty renowned in all honesty, but,
and yet it hasn't made it into the Pro Tour cube. Why?
oh man. Someday.
No,
Maybe.
no, it had chances.
Yeah. I could think of maybe a reason why it might have fallen off in kind of the later rounds is a lot of the Abzan decks that we're doing well. We're playing 4 offenses,
Yeah,
and that kind of turns off a lot of the. It turns off
Shenanigans.
Zulaport, Cutthroat, turns off Hangerback, Walker Triggers,
turns off
Liliana. Yeah, so it's a beating against that deck for sure. But I'm just guessing. I don't know if he just ran into a bunch of Abzan decks or not. But that would be a reason to maybe avoid playing that deck. If you feel like Abzan's going to continue to be,
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a good question of whether Abzan continues to remain relevant, or if Green White Megamorph kind of takes over.
Yeah, Abzan had a pretty poor showing.
Yeah,
I mean, now I know what you're thinking. Well, it won the Pro Tour. Yeah, it did. But there were only 18 total. It was an 18, right? It was an 18 to 10 cut for them, right?
Yeah,
So
something-
18
something
total
low.
players in the
I'll
Pro
look
Tour
it
played Abzan, and the cut for day 2 was 10. So they were just barely over 50% on the conversion rate. And honestly, not a lot of people chose to play it. So the cards are obviously powerful. But I think we're starting to see. Like week 1, like we played Abzan. You know what I mean? But I think as people started to open up the mana bases a little bit and start seeing what you can do, then like if you're playing a bunch of colors, then it seems like Jeskai is what people wanted to do. And if you want to like have a conservative mana base, then it seems like Green White's just what you want to do. And Abzan's sort of like stuck out in the middle, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like even this breakdown, like the losers include Siege Rhino. Siege Rhino, there were only, it says 43 copies, but it doesn't even break the top 25 cards being played. So
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The meme going around was the whole Mark Twain quote attached to like these stories of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Like Siege Rhino, it's won 2 Pro Tours. It's still insanely powerful. But the mana bases might actually be, I don't think it's specifically the cards in the format, but I do think it's the mana bases allowing people to play cards to counteract it and play decks that before. Whereas like if you saw by the end of the last format, like there was no 3-color combination besides like maybe Esper for Esper Dragons, but 3-color combinations were Siege Rhino decks. Like that's what you were doing. Like so now it's like, well, now you can play all of the things. So is Siege Rhino still I mean, it's obviously still powerful, but it's no longer the draw that it was.
right. I think the only list we didn't get a chance to talk about is the Teamerai list, which is the 4-color Teamer based list with no black. People were kind of interested in this list a little bit. Basically, it's a fairly interesting build to come out of the Pro Tour, and again, it's a little bit different than the other 4-color lists that we've seen. It being focused on the Teamer wedge.
Yeah, no black.
Yeah.
So and really focusing on the power of Beast Color or Savant.
Yeah.
The Savant and like the Radiclaw Mystic. Pretty much the only deck in the room that was really trying to take advantage of the what little 2-drop ramp we have left in the format. And I think this really was the only deck that like properly took care of that and really used that chance to, hey, if everyone else is going to try and play like just stick Mantis Riders on turn 3, well, I'm going to try and stick things on turn 2 and just get ahead of them. And honestly, like I said, the deck did some pretty powerful things. It was definitely a turn ahead of a lot of decks. Now, playing into Fiery Impulse is a little awkward with all your mana guys, especially if somebody were playing it and you saw again the deck also kind of drop off at the end, so you have to see what happens there. But it's definitely an interesting take on what you can do in the format. And once again, I'm going to play all of these things and not play Siege Rhino.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all in all,
Just another brick in the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You figured it out. Congratulations. No, I think that this wasn't the Theros, Pro Tour. This wasn't the one where
Nope, it was Battle for Zendikar.
That's not what I meant by that statement.
Yeah, if this was the Theros Pro Tour, I would have been there. But
That's also not what I meant by the statement.
A
Was
long time ago. But I can still remember.
wait, that set rotated. Oh no!
What I mean to say by that is that we're not seeing, breakout things like Mono Blue and Mono Black Devotion, things that we had not seen previous to it.
Well, I think there were a number of decks that were close, and like the Bant tokens deck, and honestly, even like Ascendancy tokens top aiding like is something that really, yes, we've seen tokens before, but that deck had to be totally revamped. You didn't see it in the Open Series those first 2 weeks, and it comes in top states of Pro Tour and really does some disgusting things.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that bad. I don't think we're like totally locked in.
No, and that's basically like there were some interesting things that came out of it, but I think all agree that there's still some room for innovation going forward in the Open Series and the GPs. So
Yeah.
I don't think people should get bent out of shape with this being like a solved format already. I don't think it is. I just think that we called it right in questions last week where it was called that a tuned list will
Right.
take it down, and that's what happened. So.
And I was wrong. I said Esper Dragons though. That deck was apparently very bad. Esper Control was good. Esper Dragons was bad.
Well, I was mainly wrong for most everything, so you were probably fine.
Yeah, I took away basically two things from this Pro Tour. First thing, Battle for Zendikar is what we thought it was, as far as impact to the format. It really, we're only a handful of cards that really change anything.
I got to feel bad for Wizards on that one. Like, hey,
Yeah. This is outside of the Battleland. Obviously, the Battlelands have completely changed.
and Gideon. Let's be honest. Every piece of advertising for this set like has Gideon like with
Right.
his little whip standing in front of Ulamog, and then like every match you saw Gideon in play. So it was like, see, he's just killing everybody. He actually doesn't know what Ulamog looks like, so he's just killing everything until he finds Ulamog.
Sometimes even himself. So another one can come around.
Oh god, yeah. So how awkward is that to watch a Gideon attack a Gideon? It's like, no.
So all right. So if we're talking about non-land cards from Battle for Zendikar that impacted the format. So Gideon, obviously, number one, right?
Yeah.
Radiant Flames, pretty popular card, card for a lot of decks,
important card,
right?
yeah.
You know what the third most played card was from Battle for Zendikar?
Dispel is my guess.
Dispel.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so we got a reprint, Dispel. And then the next one down the list is Dragon Master Outcast, which is often seen as one or two of
And-
these
and a
Justifies.
reprint.
Also a
And a
reprint.
reprint. And there are some some other cards that are seeing fringe play, but for the most part, it's not high impact.
Now let me offer one counterpoint to this. We have a 7-win deck here that offers something else you could be doing in the format, and outside of a Pro Tour, something that might be a little bit more successful. We have Victoriano Lim playing Green Black Eldrazi. And this is an Eldrazi ramp deck that played 4 Ulamogs, 4 Oblivion Sower, 4 Catacomb Sifters, Nisa's, and then just like Nisa's Renewal, Explosive Vegetation, Hedron Archives, Ugins. Like, he managed to go 7-3 in this format with that style, with those cards that you would peg as at least objectively powerful in this format. So it can be done.
Yeah, like I honestly expected to see a little bit more of that, but I mean, I don't think it's for lack of trying. Like for
No, and I agree with you on that. His mana base is sweet though too. It's like 6 Forest, 5 Swamp, 4 Wastes, 4 Jungle Hollow, 4 Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, 1 Sanctum of Ugin, 1 Spawning Bed, 1 Majoring Network.
Everybody's mana base is sweet.
Not that sweet. No one had
Nobody
no one
play.
had 7 colorless lands. Okay, and the 4 of them do different things. Like no one had that. So I'm just saying, like the people that are like, oh, I want to play these Ulamogs. You can, and I in fact played against an Ulamog ramp deck in the semifinals at States, which I won. Sorry, that's for Dave. I apologize if I come off smarmy. I just gotta poke him
See,
a couple
this
times.
is like the other reason why I wanted to win, because I don't want you to be above me. Like we can't have Mike on top. Like you can't be first.
Is that a fat joke?
You can take that however you want, but like it was like the same thing with the Cube Invitational. I was like, I can't let Mike win because I don't want to. I don't
And he
want to
did
hear
such
Mike.
a good job stopping that too.
Yeah, I'm
Man.
just failing at every turn here.
Do me a favor, keep trying to stop me from winning. it's working really well. But anyways, though, I mean, you have cards here, so I think there's other ways to take the format. And obviously, the one thing about a Pro Tour is like we talk about diversity. Like, I don't know if the Pro Tour is actually where you're going to expect to see diversity. Like, these are a bunch of people trying to play when you see PV playing a Tarka Red, that should be your biggest indicator that like I'm just trying to play the best deck I can. It doesn't mean other decks aren't viable. You know what I mean? A metagame will flesh itself out, but the Pro Tour you may not expect that.
Yeah, that kind of feeds into like the other point I was going to make. So the first point was that Battle for Zendikar didn't have that big of an impact.
Sure.
Second point is you can still very much play whatever you want to play in this format, and I think there's still a lot of room for innovation and a lot of room for the decks to kind of evolve from here. I don't think you're going to see the same old decks going forward. I mean, you will see these decks, but I wouldn't be surprised to see something new pop up, in 2 weeks or something. So.
Yeah. All right. I think that pretty much sums up our Pro Tour conversation.
I do just want to touch on.
There's always one more thing with Dave. It always feels like.
Hey, this is like.
Pro Tour.
This is real stuff here. I just want to give a quick shout out. So there were a couple players. So one of the really cool stories of the Pro Tour I thought was Brandon Burton. I don't know if you guys know who he is.
Yeah.
A lot of people might know him better as his Magic Online as Sandy Dog MTG.
Yeah.
And he made a pretty deep run in this tournament. If you don't know him, he's confined to a wheelchair. He has cerebral palsy, so his mother actually has to help him hold the cards and things like that. So he did have some feature matches on camera, and he's a very good player. I believe he won a Mox before Magic Online.
I think he came in second. In the first place, player couldn't.
Yeah, that's
go.
what the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So.
Yep. But yeah, it was a really, really cool story. There was a good write-up in the Pro Tour coverage, so if you want to go check that out. And if you like playing red decks, he loves playing red decks. So, if you're someone who checks like Magic Online results, the dailies and the premier events and things like that, you'll pretty much always see his name up there doing well. So, he's pretty much always playing red if red is playable. So I thought that was a cool storyline throughout the Pro Tour. And then the other one was our 11th place finisher, Autumn Burchett, which was her first Pro Tour. And she ended up going 9-1
Nice.
in Constructed. So she had one of the top finishes for Constructed and finished just short of top 8 there, but she'll be qualified for the next one. So
That's pretty sweet.
I thought those were cool storylines. Weren't people that you may know, and they weren't people that top 8'd, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Thank
Okay.
you.
We
Fine.
can move on now.
Thank you. So next up, we have the question of the week. And we had a few ones that we could have picked from this week, but we thought we landed on a pretty nice one. So, over the finals, basically not the finals, but the Sunday over the last rounds of the tournament, the elimination rounds, as it were. We have had this change from the recent Pro Tours where everything but the finals is 3 rounds, 3
Best of
games.
3.
Yeah, best of 3 games, and the finals is best of 5. So we saw in the match between PV and Finkel some variants happen where this is a best of 3 in the PV Molzafor in one of the games, and that is variance. It obviously happens in the game, but it's hard to watch it at the highest.
Everybody's very
echelon.
excited. Like I was super excited. Like, all right, Finkel versus PV. Like this is not even playing Magic,
Yeah,
and that's upsetting.
So basically, the question that we posit is with variants playing a role in the game and us wanting to obviously have the best matches possible, do we shift back to playing 5 games throughout the elimination rounds of the Pro Tour?
All right, so I'll kick this off here. So first off, I just want to say, so the reason why they went away from this in the first place is because of the expanded coverage that they've been doing. So they used to be best of 5 all the time in the Pro Tour top 8s, but they would only show one match on camera while the other ones were going on. Since now they're showing every single match, for the sake of time, they're making a best out of 3 until the finals. So I understand that, but for me, at the Pro Tour, I want there to be as little variance as possible. I want there to be actual Magic being played, and if I'm tuning in to watch Pro Tour top 8, I want to see the best players like winning because not because of mulligans and things like that. Like I want to see like actual plays. I want somebody to show me why they're one of the best in the world. You know what I mean? And when you reduce it to these 3 these best of 3 matches, which a lot of times, maybe the deck that is supposed to win or the matchup that's supposed to win is still going to win, but it's not as exciting, and you don't have the. I really like the sideboarded games where you can go back and forth, and you kind of take some of that away when you go to a best of 3. So.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with that. I will say that like the variance thing, like if we point to the last Pro Tour, Mike Siegrist, like he had some pretty bad mulligan issues. They were playing best of 5, so they're going to play best of 7, best of 10.
It's never going to take it all away, and the new mulligan rule helps it a little.
And I agree, and you can see that they've been working hard to address this, because it's it is. Take it however you want. It isn't something that's happening when you're watching competitive, Hearthstone. It isn't something that's happening when you're watching League of Legends. You know what I mean? People don't end up like, gimped in some way in their development. In this game, you have that with Mana, which makes Magic a great game and also hurts it from a coverage perspective. I don't know how I feel about this. I love the idea of playing 5 games. I enjoyed it when they played 5 games. I also don't like the idea that So if we look at this Pro Tour, then like obviously we're playing best of 5, and only a couple people get to be on camera, right? And like I know we have ways to fix this, and we should fix it. But if we're going back to the old method, then like, of course we're going to watch Fingal versus PV, and then this other guy, like Ricky Chin, is never going to get on camera, despite the fact that he had a great Pro Tour run, because nobody knows his name, and that's sort of like how that that it's sort of frustrating from that angle. In my mind, they could do the best of both worlds, and I know like maybe that's not right, but they could literally. They have enough people there. They have enough commenters. You normally have LSV in the booth. You have other people who've had access to that you've tapped for events recently. Why not have 2 coverage teams? You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you can splice the 2 matches in instead of having 20-minute breaks in between the matches. Just splice the other match in.
Yeah, like I've made this argument on this podcast before in the past about how it'd be cool to have like multiple channels, and the the Magic Twitch channel literally has 2 different channels. They have Magic and Magic 2. So they could, potentially be showing it on 2 separate streams at the same time. Now, the commentators, I don't know if they would have 2 different, like, commentator teams going, but they could have, at the very least, have, the match going without commentary. Maybe they could add that in after the fact, for the archives. But, that's something they could do where they could have, 2 matches going at the same time, and it would. If the worry is that it's going to take too long, that would cut it down. Yeah,
I agree. There's a way they could do this and show both. I still I like the 5, just because like this is supposed to be the highest level of Magic, and the more games you play, the better. Now, I will say there's another sort of twist to this, is that some people have said that they should consider changing the sideboarding rules then if you play 5 games, which I know Dave you immediately sort of like dismissed, but some people were suggesting because it was implied. I'd have to go back and look at Twitter because it was somebody in Wizards who made mention of they don't always like sideboarding game 5 is like this really weird rabbit hole that you never actually go to in Magic, where like you're sideboarding based on their sideboard of their sideboarder games. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you could argue that's a skill level thing, right? But you could also argue that for viewers, it's not always intuitive as to like the decision making, and your commentators sort of get lost. Like, well, he could do this if he did this, and then you're playing, leveled thinking. Like, everyone becomes Matthias Hunt is what happens. So
we can see all options in all lanes.
So you could say the argument was either play 2 regular main border games and 3 sideboarder games. It doesn't have to be the first 2. It could be one main deck, sideboard. Game 4 is main deck, game 5 is sideboard, which I think is interesting. Probably not necessary though.
Yeah, I don't really like that idea because it just makes it so choppy. It's just like, oh, is this the game we're supposed to go back to just main board? Like that doesn't feel right. Like it doesn't feel intuitive at all. And like you're saying, I really love the kind of playing that level game where it's like, okay, I got to think about how he's going to sideboard, and okay, now what can I do to kind of counteract that? I don't really think it's going to be. I don't think it would be a problem from a coverage standpoint because I mean, they have spotters on the floor. Like they know how people sideboard like before. So I mean, sure, the commentators can kind of guess as to what's going to happen, but as soon as they start shuffling up for the next game, they'd be like, oh, okay, this person actually did sideboard like this, like we thought, but this other person actually went a different route, and we'll see how that plays out. I think that's interesting, and we've definitely seen like some interesting. I'm trying to think of a specific scenario in the past where like. I think it was like Gab Nassif was playing a Tron deck back when that was in standard, and he basically sideboarded in all his creatures or something. Like it was like an unwinnable match, so he just like had this crazy sideboard plan to like try to win. But in any case, like I just think it makes it more interesting.
I think like it becomes sort of a logistics issue at that point in time. Like when we talk about having potentially multiple streams or multiple recordings going on, I have no idea how much any of that equipment costs, and if it is cost effective for Wizards to even attempt to do that. Again, eliminating variance in what ways you can from Magic is nice. It allows you to enjoy games of Magic instead of enjoy someone else pummeling someone else handily. But I don't know how feasible that would be necessarily in everywhere they go. They go so many places internationally. It's hard to say, whether this could always be put into place.
Pro Tour level? I'm not asking for GPs.
I understand
right.
that,
Pro
but I
Tour
mean,
level?
like, so you're expecting? I mean, we've been to Star City Games events. We've seen we and they usually have the rig that they carry around with them, pretty much everywhere that they go. And that thing is huge. And I don't know if it's necessarily cost effective if they need multiples of those to happen. I don't know how many streams those things can run necessarily.
Well, they don't. I mean, they already have multiple cameras set up. That's how they do like the live look-ins in between. Like you can see it. They have the picture-in-picture, and they're showing multiple games. So I don't think that's the problem. Like really, it seems to me like the only added thing that they would have to do would be to add another like commentator booth or something, or maybe do some extra work after the fact to add in the commentary.
Sure. But again, we don't necessarily know all the logistics of this, though.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know
You're
every
paying out
single
almost
thing.
$100,000 in the top 8. I don't think we can worry about them having to buy a camera. You know what I mean? Like to put it forward the best product. That's the weirdest. I don't like that argument at all. I don't. And I get it. It is something. It feels like something Wizards would say though. Like we just don't have the money for it. We haven't even paid out GP Vegas yet. I don't know what to tell you guys.
You may not like the argument for it, but that is the argument for it.
It's a corporate argument,
correct?
But if you're gonna pretend like you're putting out your best product and just not put out your best product, then that's trash.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's Moto. I forgot.
But you're forgetting, like, this is Wizard we're dealing with, and they don't necessarily always have that mindset, the player forward mindset. They do what they can, but sometimes they do stumble. And those are the arguments that they come up with, where it's just not cost effective or feasible for them to necessarily do that. Even though for us, for the outside onlooker, it would be more I don't know better. I mean, and I think something that they also try to do with having each match sort of highlighted is to highlight the players and make potentially them feel special. Having everything going on maybe takes away from that, and maybe they don't want to do that since they made a stance to do it this way now. So maybe that could be a reason why they don't want to take a step back. And then because if they did like the multiple cameras and filmed it, and then it's like, oh well, I had the live feature match, but you were just filmed. Like then you have that level of differentiation between those. And maybe some people care about that, and maybe some people don't. But I think they want to make sure that everyone is treated the same until the finals. Yeah. But everyone is treated the same, through the quarters and through the semis.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like what they're doing now when they're showing every match. Like, since they switched over to that format, I think that is the best way that they've done it so far. But if that hurts the gameplay, then it's not worth it to me. Mm. Like, I would rather them show less matches, but then the ones that they're going to show are going to be actual matches of Magic, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I'll make another sports parallel here. It'd be like if you have, Tom Brady against Peyton Manning, which for 15 years or so has been a marquee matchup in football. And then in the first quarter, one of them gets a concussion and leaves the game. Then it's like, oh, well, this really isn't what I signed up for, and this isn't really going to be fun anymore. You know what I mean? So that's all I want. I mean, I don't think they necessarily need to change anything, but I hope they're looking into other options. Like, and Wizards has been pretty good with this specific thing recently,
Sure.
As far as like improving coverages and listening to people and kind of trying new things, as we saw with like the organized play changes that we were talking about earlier. I think there are some other avenues that they could look at to potentially, maybe look into going back to a best of 5 in the Pro Tour top 8s. I think it makes it a little bit more special too. I mean, this is the highest level. And,
Sure.
If you're going to do it at any level, it should be a Pro Tour top 8.
Yeah. I'm just sure that there's a lot that, we can say these things, but we don't know how any of that is organized, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we don't know all the details. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the back end. I'm just saying, like, there may be other things that they could look into.
Yeah, for sure. That was a good discussion. All right. Well, let's move into this weekend and see what's going on. So, up at Streetsboro, at Empire Games and Cards, we have a Team Trios event. Oh man, I'm so excited. Hopefully Mike and I will be attending this.
That is the current plan. Yes.
And
just 2?
With my wife.
Yes, correct. And
That's getting the band back together from last time.
that is getting the band back together for. Was it just Theros Team Trios, or was it was just Theros.
We took second in that tournament.
Yeah.
So
we want to come back
we
and
took
take
Dave.
first.
We took Dave in that tournament. So this time we want to take Mike. We want to take Mike in that tournament.
Wow, the daggers, they continue. And that is up on the event page at Empire Cards on Facebook. So find them on Facebook. I think it's just Empire Game Center, and you should be able to look up the event and join it, and find a couple friends and come up there to Streetsboro and battle it out. Open some packs of battle for Zendikar, and then maybe even open an expedition, and then fight to see who gets the expedition.
Dibs. It's on here now.
Want me to play that back for you?
To be fair, if we're like doing it even wise, I still have a very low shot of getting it since it's you and your wife. So I'm pretty sure if your wife gets it, in turn you get it.
Yeah, I like this.
Oh man. There's also Game Day. Game Day will be held both Saturday and Sunday at Comic Town, and you can get a full art Radiant Flame if you win, along with a sweet Game Day playmat. And then top 8 all get Stasis Snares full art. No, or is that just the all top 8 all get Radiant Flames, and then everyone gets Stasis Snare?
Yes, that's how it works.
But it's a sweet full art Stasis Snare.
Yeah, and Sweet Floor Radiant Flames.
Yeah, that is really, really great. We want to get it. And then we also have the Star City Games Open Series coming to St. Louis. It's going to be a Legacy Open with a modern Premier IQ as well as a standard Premier IQ. And then we have GP Quebec City, which is standard, and then GP Beijing, which is going to be team limited. So lots of events going on over the weekend, and when we come back next week, we'll sure to have plenty to talk about. And then, until then, you can follow us on Twitter. We are at YourEndStep. Again, if you have any questions about the decks that Mike or Dave played over the weekend, be sure to tweet them at us, and they'll be sure to get them answered. And then we also have a Facebook page, so it's facebook.com/@YourEndStep. You can also visit our sponsors' Facebook page, Comic Town, at Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. You can just search for them. And then we have a website at YourEndStep.com. We also have an email address if you want to email us some questions. It's at YourEndStep@gmail.com. But I do believe that is everything for this week. We will catch you guys next time. You have a great one. Bye.